Don't assume your kids have the exact same feelings and motivations around money as you do.
They said we would actually prefer not to talk about money at home because it's the biggest source of conflict.
Smart money parenting.
All right, we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Smart Money Parenting. Thanks for listening, viewing, watching, and subscribing. We are having a blast talking about helping parents teach their kids about money. And in the process, we're teaching the parents about money. Today, we're talking about all things spending and the emotions of money. Kids have a spending profile. Parents have a money motto, if you will. And we are going to talk today about the 4 different types of personalities that spend money in certain ways. So Chad, welcome to the show, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about this. It's a topic I've dealt with for 21 plus years, and it's the emotions and the feelings around money. It's really interesting. I mean, what you got a comment?
What was the last thing you bought? I'm gonna look. What was the last thing you bought?
The last thing I bought was actually this jacket right here. This little Tommy Bahamas reversible jacket.
There you go. Mine was I'm gonna make you look so bad. Mine was Valentine's Day gift for my wife.
Oh, but see, it's today's Valentine's Day, so like I got that a long time ago. Come on, man. I'm not waiting till the last minute.
You're a good spender. You're a good planner.
I'm prepared. I'm ahead of the game. No, I would say like the money emotions and the money blueprints and the mindsets come from when you're a very little kid. Like if you heard mom and dad or your parents arguing about money a lot, you're going to feel like money's a negative thing. If your dad was always like, turn the lights off, turn the water off, do this, do that. We don't have money for that. We can't afford that. We can't afford that. Then it's going to be drilled into you. And so whatever you grow up with, hearing money talked about in your home is going to stick with you for decades and decades. I've had multi-millionaire clients who were scared to replace the 50-year-old carpet because they were taught that like, you don't need to replace stuff like that. And they could afford it in a heartbeat. It wouldn't affect anything, but they are scared to do it because they have this reminder of when they were a kid and their mom or their dad said this or that. So the feelings, you dealt with it.
I feel that in a way. You know, I grew up in a very frugal home. You know, we had plenty of money because I come from 4 generations of entrepreneur, very wise in spending. But at the same time, you know, my grandparents grew up Great Depression, like chewing tar as gum when they were kids, not 2 pennies to rub together. And now, you know, fast forward 70 years, 80 years later, they reuse their napkins and, you know, they're worth millions and millions of dollars, but they eat brown guacamole because, hey, it's still good. I'm not going to get sick. And they mix all of their juices together and they call it Bieksma juice. It's like, tastes like prunes. It's crazy, right? So I come from that home and I remember that very vividly growing up. You know, I should probably say this to start off the show. We interviewed 1,000 families, you know, when we started Gravy Stack, and what we found was shocking. Not only did the parents not have a roadmap to teach their kids about money, which is why we're doing this show, but the kids, they said we would actually prefer not to talk about money at home because it's the biggest source of conflict. You get parents that say things like, do you know how hard I worked to buy that? We can't go
or imagine a parent saying, do you know how much you're costing me?
Yep.
To their kid.
Yep.
You know,
you can't.
What does that do for the kid's psyche?
Parent, you know, mom says, did you forget to pay that bill again? You know, it's parents don't fight about, they fight about sex and money. That's the 2 biggest conflicts in a marriage. You don't fight about sex in front of your kids, but guess what you do fight about? Money. And it comes out in a million different ways. It might not seem like a fight, but it's unresolved conflict. It's comments here and there.
Stress. Sarcasm, stress, blaming. It's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of emotions around money that we got to talk about because as a parent, you really are shaping how your kids view money. And they're going to grow up with that. They're going to carry that forever. So between 0 and 18, these kids are shaping their mindset for the future about money decisions, and it will impact your grandkids and great grandkids. So I would say one of the questions that I always ask our young kids is, how does it feel when you receive money? What are the feelings you get? And then what do you do with those feelings? Like, what's the first thing you want to do when you get money? And some kids, it's like, well, I want to spend it right away. I want to go get the fun, shiny toy. And others are like, I want to put it somewhere where no one can take it from me. And I want to save it for the future. Like, kids come with a lot of these built-in money mindsets, money blueprints, and depends on how they feel at the time they receive or they spend money. So why don't you talk, Scott, about the 4 kind of profiles that parents can think about for each of their kids? And maybe if you're listening to this and you've got multiple kids, maybe see which of your kids fit into which category. Yep. And let's talk about that, Scott.
Yeah, so we built something in the Gravy Stack game called the Money Motto Quiz. It's one of the games in the first level. It's right off the bat. Kids choose from a bunch of different photos and games and questions to help them learn what their money motto is. And there's 4 different styles as it relates to money. And what we're finding is that parents actually appreciate this more because it helps parents understand where they come from, what they're lean towards, where they lean as a parent, and how that might impact their kids because they're always watching. Your parents showed you something about money when you were growing up that completely links to how you view money today, whether you're super cautious, whether you're a hoarder, whether you're a consumer spender. Here, I'll go through the 4 right now, but this is really powerful for you to understand how to be careful about when you talk about money and how you talk about money around your kids and with your kids. I got to say this too, Chad, before I forget. It's not just parents that are trying to rub 2 pennies together and kids that then become hoarders. You see parents sometimes, let's say your parents were separated and dad comes rolling in on the new Ferrari or the new status symbol of the day. Right. And you idolize dad growing up. You see that as a status symbol. You see that as your ego, your identity, right? It's on both sides of the coin. So here are the 4 categories that we can talk through. First category is the brainy kid. Okay. This is the kid who is super information based. They study everything. They want to ace the test before anything begins. Okay. So they're really research based. That kid is calm, cool, collected, but the potential weakness is it drives you to paralysis analysis, right?
Yeah. They don't make decisions with their money. They just want to learn everything, but not do as much. They kind of get stuck. They get stuck a little bit.
They can get stuck and miss good financial and business opportunities. Okay. The next kid is we call them the mood vibes. The kid that's basically like, hey, when the mood changes, I'm up or down and I want to spend based on my mood, right? They're empathetic, compassionate. They're usually a feeler. Their caring nature leads them to buy items in an attempt to feel inner fulfillment. Okay. This is a kid that, they have to buy something to feel worthy. They buy love from others by buying things for them.
For adults, we call that retail therapy. It's like when my mood is bad, I go to retail stores and I spend a bunch of money and my mood feels better and my bank account is empty, but gosh, I feel so good now. My mood changed because I spent a bunch of money.
Which can tend to the opposite of the first kid. This person can overspend. Right. Very quickly, they can overspend and it causes a fragile sense of self-worth. Those are the downsides. So then we've got the third one, which is our stacker. This is the saver. Okay. This kid is usually, they want stable, secure environments, especially when it comes to money. They rarely overspend. They excel in work scenarios where it's orderly, it's well-defined. The only downside of this is that they tend to put off buying items they need for too long, and they place themselves last in favor of a sense of control. So these people can move over, they might move over that line of being smart in their spending to being cheap or super miserly or...
Yeah, they're going to hoard money and not do even what they need to do because they're so obsessed with just collecting, gathering, and holding it tight.
That's right. That's right. And then we move on to our last. We call these ones bling. The bling buyer is, they love confidence. They enjoy being seen and noticed. They use their money to purchase status symbols. Okay. Interesting. This is where you believe that the nicest shoes give you a leg up in school.
That's literally what just happened with one of my kids. He spent a significant amount of money that he earned on some really stylish shoes that I think personally, I think they're very ugly shoes. And I'm like, how are you really spending that much money on these shoes? And my wife is like, hey, it's his money. He earned it. He can spend it on whatever he wants. And I'm just like, why? I can't comprehend that you would spend that much money on a pair of shoes. Like, I don't even spend that much money on a pair of shoes. And, he's 12 years old and he's like, these are so cool. I just love them. And like, he wears them everywhere, regardless of the setting. Those are his shoes.
I saw those shoes. They're
Yeah,
gorgeous.
you saw them. Yeah, they're cool. But I'm like, what? But see, that's the thing. Like, understanding as a parent, if you understand their profile, you know what motivates them with money. So I think that's a great example of it.
Right. And so those kids, they thrive in high energy, dynamic environments. They're action oriented. Those are the superpowers of a bling buyer. But they tend to use the material possessions to help them be seen in a particular group. And if they're not careful, they immediately overspend. Immediately. Like, it's like the quickest way to blow a lot of money. And it's funny to watch a 12-year-old. You're like, what percentage of your net worth did you just put into those shoes, my friend? Let's talk about this. So those are the 4 categories: using your brain, your moods, you're a bling buyer, or you are like a plotter hoarder. Like there's powers in each, and there are downsides to each. And sometimes kids, based on their environment, can move between different columns. They'll move.
So I guess what advice do we have to parents about, once they can kind of identify their kids' money profile and their kids' financial tendencies? Like, what advice do we give to parents to be smart money parents and to make better parenting, situations and outcomes for these kids based on what they've learned?
Well, the first step in all progress is telling the truth, right? Get educated on the 4 types and understand which one each of your kids are, and you yourself, what you tend towards at times, and have great conversations about it. It's very, very helpful for a kid who knows which one they might be like, right? What they identify as, to understand their downsides, understand their blind spots. It will help them every single time make better financial decisions, right? You and I talk about this all the time. What's the key to wealth? Spend less than you make. It's that simple. And so, before you talk about spending at all, you should talk about spending less than you make, no matter what, so that you're always growing your financial portfolio. You're growing your wealth, you're growing your net worth, you're creating value in the world. And if you outpunt your coverage, then you can get into some real big problems, right? That's what
I think really addressing the fact that kids are different matters. I see some parents that think that all their kids are going to be just like them. So if the parent is a stacker and a saver, like an obsessive saver, and is very, very tight with spending, and then they have a kid that's the bling buyer and is loose and wants to buy for status or other things like that because it makes them feel important and confident, you're going to freak out as a parent because it goes totally against what you believe. But these kids have different ideas. They have different personalities than you. Maybe they take after their other parent. Maybe they take after their grandparent. Maybe they take after their aunt or their uncle. But like, don't assume your kids have the exact same feelings and motivations around money as you do. There are some people I meet where the parents are like, I do not care about money. Like, I don't even think about it. It's not a priority. I'm happy with where I'm at. And then they've got a kid that's very entrepreneurial, that's obsessed with earning and learning about money and investing in one. They want to open an investment account and they're 15 years old and start a couple of businesses. And it's just foreign to the parent who has no interest in this stuff. So I believe it's very critical as a parent to recognize and accept that your kids don't have the same exact money blueprints that you do. They're going to come with a different set of ideas and motivations. And so respect it, understand it, learn from it, teach with it. You can't completely take that out of them. So work with what you've got in your kids around the feelings around money.
Yeah, I think one of the critical things, you have an identity as a family. You have a culture, you have mission, vision, and values. You should make sure from the earliest age possible that your kids understand the values of your family. What does it mean to be a Willardson? What does it mean to be a Donnell? In our family, we have certain values as a family. We leave things better. This is a core tenet of our family. It's about creating value. It's one of our first values as a family. Whenever we're at a party, whenever we're hanging out, whenever we're with friends, we always leave them better. We leave things cleaner than we found them. We leave things better. We leave our classroom better. We leave our team stronger and better. Everybody else around us is better when we're done. That's a core value. The other thing is, Donnells do hard things, right? We do the hard things that other people are not willing to do because we know that it grows capability and confidence, and it creates value in the world. One of my other favorite things is, we think long term. If you're a Donnell, you think about the future and you care about what this means for the world, what it means for the environment, what it means for your kids, what it means for the economy. We want our kids to be thinking about the future, and you can't do that without talking about financial competency. You can't do that without understanding how to spend wisely. And so our kids have it built in from the get-go that they will spend less than they make. This is a really key point. Spending, we just talked about 4 different types of spenders, right?
Right.
Spending is not giving your kids money to go buy things with. That's not spending. That doesn't teach them anything, actually. That doesn't even matter what they do with it. You lost before you started. If you give your kids an allowance, or just every time they ask you, you're giving them money for things, that is anti-financial competency. So a kid can only spend and truly know what their money motto is when they've earned that money, which is why we created the home gigs model inside Gravy Stack. These kids have a menu of economic opportunities, which you put in the book, Smart Not Spoiled.
Yep.
And it shows you can earn this money by helping create value around the household. And that money, once you've saved, spent, and shared, put it correctly in its bins, then you can decide on what you want to do and make your own plans with the spend account. That's true spending. You won't know a kid's money motto unless they've earned those funds and they have an intrinsic motivation to steward it correctly, right? More kids will be consumer status givers. They'll just blow it. They'll tend towards blowing it if you just start handing them money. So you won't actually know their money motto until they start to earn around the house. And you should be doing this at age 6, 7, 8, super early. We started it with the quarter system with our kids when they're 3. Right. And we talk about the quarter system in other episodes. We'll find out what episode that is and we'll post it. But this is really important. You can't just give your kids money whenever they ask, or to go on outings or do things and expect them to learn any of these money mottos, right? You have to get them to earn first and then spend with what's in their spend jar, what's in their debit card.
And Scott, I think that's a critical point, is that as we've talked about on the Smart Money Parenting Show, kids learn by doing and they learn by playing. And so if you're just handing over money as the bank of mom and dad, the kids are not going to really develop those skills and those mindsets. Like, they need to actually learn to earn. They start with earning some money, doing some work. And then that's when the real fun begins. That's when you can see, what are my kids really made of? Because they've actually put in some work and earned some money. It's like, now what are they going to do when the money is in their hands and it's stuff that they earned? Very different conversations than if you're just handing out money or transferring money to their debit card every time they ask for it. So let's be smart money parents by actually teaching our kids to earn, and then letting them make mistakes, letting them learn what kind of a spender or saver they are. Change the percentages on spending and sharing and investing and giving and all these things. Let's tinker with it. Let them learn, let them grow and evolve, let them set goals and have discussions. But I also think, Scott, you made a great point about family values. Like, discuss what's important to you, what you've learned. What lessons have you learned about spending and saving and investing? What mistakes have you made that you could share with your kids? Have you ever talked to your kids about financial mistakes you've made? Like, that's a great thing to talk about at the dinner table. Like, hey, I want to share with you a lesson I learned that maybe you can learn from just by hearing my story. And I think kids will appreciate and respect the fact that you're opening up and being vulnerable and talking about this. But there's a lot of emotions that come to the surface when you're dealing with money. And so understanding your kids' profiles and understanding how your kids spend money and what matters to them, what motivates them, I think these are critical things that will make you a better parent when it comes to shaping kids who are ready to succeed in the real world.
Yeah. And I think here that one thing we should consider here is, what are the background motives or experiences or conversations you've had that might have turned your kid towards one of these four?
Sure.
Really do some deep thinking on your experience, the things you've said, your fears towards money, your status around money, the keeping up with the Joneses around money in your neighborhood or at your school or on the sports team. We want to really get you to think about this, right? When I learned these four mottos, I went, oh, wow, I can tend towards hoarding, right? I can be cheap or miserly at times. And I've really had to break through. And I understood for my personal profile, being generous was my way to break through that. So, I see money as a tool now. It's just a measuring stick for value. It's not my identity. It's not my safety net. It's not my ego. It's not my pride is not in my bank account. So I was able to kind of break through this, generational frugal mindset, which is good in so many ways. I'm thankful for it. But I can be radically generous with our family's, charitable trust, the way we give. We want to teach our kids to be generous givers because it's so much more powerful for their emotional health. It's powerful for their confidence in the future. It helps everyone around us. And so learning where you came from and what your money motto is actually gives you more freedom once you understand it. And if we can help our kids to see it, they'll be able to take small steps to be able to balance it out, because you don't want to be super into each of those four, right? I think the goal is to have an understanding of all four and to be balanced in your approach when it comes to spending. And you said one thing earlier that I loved: make the mistakes at home when the stakes are low.
Sure.
Instead of avoiding it and letting your kids go out into the real world and make big mistakes that can be extremely costly, pun intended, for their future. How many kids go out in the real world, go into credit card debt? They buy the nicest thing to look good, or they get terrified, so they don't actually go to the school they want to do. They don't do the job they want to do because they don't take the risks they want to take because they're either on one side or the other. You can make these decisions at home. I love that you shared Sterling's story of the shoes, right? That's an unbelievable learning lesson at home, right? If there's a chunk of change in their spend jar after they've saved to invest for the long term, and they've shared, let them start making decisions and then work through them. Let them decide to blow their money on the game or the toy or whatever.
And that's what I asked him. I'm like, why did you buy those? And he's like, I've really wanted to buy these really cool, nice shoes. And it's like, okay, and as my wife reminded me, like, hey, you said if he does his giving, his charitable giving and his saving and investing, he can do whatever he wants with the spending. So I kind of had to swallow my pride, but it does help to have these conversations. And that's not like a mistake he made. He wanted to buy those shoes and he bought them. But if he were to make a spending or an investing mistake, I'd rather him do it in our home under 18 years old so we can learn and talk about it before it's a bigger dollar mistake in the future that we're having to correct in a much bigger way. So I think this is a great topic for parents to really dive into and understand what motivates your kids to spend money. What's it all about in their head.
You just yesterday, with our 6 and 4-year-old. So this is, if you're wondering what the ages are too young or too old, I'm doing this with 2, 4, and 6-year-olds right now. So Reagan and Sawyer, my 6 and 4-year-olds, were talking about buying a magic kit because they all of a sudden, I do the thing with the quarter where I flip it and they got to choose which hand. It's just fun. So they're like, we want to learn some magic. And so we looked on Amazon and Reagan has money, Sawyer doesn't. Okay. So Reagan had $100 left in her spend from the huge business fair, right? And she already did the saving for investing. She already gave to the charity jar, this share. And so she had $100 left and they were $29. And it started out with, they wanted to each get one. And Sawyer did not understand, the 4-year-old, he did not understand why Reagan wouldn't just give him $29 so he could buy one too. And she's like, Sawyer, this is my money. It's not your money. And so then he's like, well, what can I do? What can I do? And I was like, you guys have to figure out a plan to see if you can both do this together. And so Reagan goes, I'll buy it for my $29. And half of that is like $14 or $15. Sawyer, I'll come up with things you can do for me around the house
Look at this.
to make that $15.
She's hiring him.
She's hiring him. He is cleaning her room now. He's going to do, I think he's going to clean her dishes for like 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
He's going to clean up when we do the family, like the chores and the things that they have to do for the house rules we set up in Gravy Stack. They have their responsibilities. He's going to cover for her, and she's going to say each one's worth $1. And then she's going to share the magic kit, which has like 20 tricks in it. They're each going to get 10 of the tricks and share them together.
How cool is that?
I'm watching this thing unfold, and this would usually be tears, fights, problems,
Right.
crying. Why wouldn't you buy this for me? Don't you love me, Dad? Kind of bribery for money and coercion and love, right? They worked it out on their own as a 6 and 4-year-old. And if they can do that, anyone can do that, right?
Yeah, that just proves right there, kids at a young age can learn to have money conversations and make decisions. I mean, you don't have to wait till they're 17, 18 years old at all.
That's right. There
What
you
a
go.
cool example, though. Those kids are awesome.
So I think we've covered most of the spending. I mean, there's 100 topics we're going to cover for parents, but I think this covers most of it. If you guys want to ask us new questions, anything you want for a parent raising your kids, or you as a parent yourself, how do you manage your money, your investing, your saving, your spending, your giving, your borrowing? Ask us questions. Go to smartmoneyparenting.com. You can click on ask a question right there at the top. If we showcase your question on the show, we're going to give you a little spiff for it. We'll give you guys some stuff from Gravy Stack. And we've had a blast making this show. And our goal is to help 50 million kids become financially confident and ready to succeed in the real world. And if we do that with 50 million kids around the world, all their parents are going to come along for the ride. So that's why we're doing this show. So thank you guys so much for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. Share this with a friend if they need to hear it. Post it online and help us out spreading the word. And that's it. Any last comments, Chad?
Yeah, support the mission, man. I mean, everyone we talk to is excited about teaching kids about money and helping parents, help each other. Let's help each other be smart money parents and take our kids to the next level of success and just avoid big problems and mistakes down the road by starting young. So help us out, share the episodes like Scott said. Post it, tag your friends, like and comment, give us reviews. We really want this mission to get out there and help as many parents and kids as possible. And once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
It takes more than money if you want to succeed. You gotta know what to do with it. You gotta take the lead. You gotta give them confidence. You gotta make them smart. If your kids are gonna thrive, now's the time to start. Smart money.